Welcome to The Problem Was Me. I'm your host, Tom Gagliano. I'm a best-selling author, family dynamics expert, and social worker. And we'll be discussing childhood messages and their impact on addiction, the intimacy we have or don't have, our parenting skills, the careers we choose, even the roles we're set up to play in life. Do you put other people's needs ahead of your own? Do you have a hard time sharing your feelings? Do you feel invisible? Do you have a hard time saying no to others? Do you have an inner voice screaming for help, but yet you're so afraid of allowing others to hear this voice? Well, you've come to the right show. I'll be touching upon these issues and much more from my personal and professional experiences to help you end the negative self-talk and take your life to a new level. The Problem Was Me starts now. Everyone, welcome to another podcast of The Problem Is Me with your host, me, Tom Gagliano. So in all of my podcasts, I always talk about what the problem is, what the solution is, and how to work the solution. So today's podcast, we're going to key on a society riddled with anxiety. Look, in this day and age, it's seemingly impossible to protect our children from the constant influx that comes in from the social media, that comes in from the internet, from television. Even the most vigilant parents in the world can't stop their children from hearing all this inappropriate content and everything that's going on in the world. And it's affecting them tremendously. So what do we do as parents to help our children, to help our teenagers, to help our parents, to help ourselves with this constant influx of negativity going around the world? You know, we've gone through COVID, and COVID took something away that was so vitally important, and that was social interaction. Social interaction for all of us is like vitamins to becoming healthy. Very important. What has happened because of COVID, because of the lack of social interaction, is many things. We have started to use social media as our coping mechanism, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't fill our voids on the inside with what's going on the outside. It's taught us how to ghost, to not deal with uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable conversations, just to leave them alone because we don't have to personally interact with people. It's taught us how to not trust the dating process because we don't know who we're talking to or not talking to. So what's happened is it's filled a void in us that it shouldn't. It shouldn't be a coping mechanism. It shouldn't be an escape from dealing with life. And it certainly shouldn't be an emotional substitute. But that's what social media has become. Social media and advertisements are telling our children what clothes to wear, what food to eat, what they should look like. Now, we've always had that. Don't get me wrong. But if you listen to therapists, professional psychiatrists, the amount of depression, anxiety, and suicide today are at an all-time high. We're getting too connected to the social media. We consciously and subconsciously are always looking to see what kind of likes we got, who our followers are. We're getting enslaved by this. And I could tell you, as a best-selling author and somebody on Instagram with likes and followers, I've had to watch myself not getting obsessed with this too. I've had to detach and find other things to take up my time. But the advertisements on social media have told our children, our teenagers, and many of us that we're either in or out. If you're in, you're going to buy these products, you're going to look the way we want you to look, or you're out. You're not a part of. So what I'm saying is the power that this has is amazing. It's unprecedented. Look at many kids have this picture perfect ideal about how they should look. And plastic surgeons are saying more and more teenage kids in high school are getting plastic surgery in high school. Why? Because they want to look like the people they see on Instagram and on Facebook. There's a thing called snapshot dysmorphia. Now, dysmorphia means it's a disease and it's an addiction. So when I look in the mirror, I see my nose is too big, my ears are too big. I always find it's a vanity insanity. I always find something wrong with me. And everybody could tell me that's not true. It don't matter. I believe what I see, and it's distorted. It's not reality. And once I fix this, then I got to fix this. It's never enough, like all addictions. I'm a recovering addict. I know. I was a compulsive gambler. There wasn't enough gambling I could do that filled the void on the inside. Same thing with dysmorphia. There's not enough plastic surgery you could do to make yourself happy. And now there's this thing called snapshot dysmorphia, where kids are getting plastic surgery just to improve their selfies. That's powerful stuff. Another thing is that the social media is a haven for addictions. At a young age, we have these chemicals, these endorphins and dopamine in our brain that go off and give feel goods when something triggers us, like an addict. A feel good, an alcoholic could be drinking. When he starts to drink, the endorphins go up, the dopamine go up. A gambler like me, they go up, they get feel goods. Well, we have kids at young and younger ages that they're getting these feel goods just from the sound of the phone, just from going on the phone and going back and forth. And what about they can gamble, they could spend more than they have, they could look at porn, all addictive tendencies. And what do I know about addiction? It's only progressive, it only gets worse. And what I also know is I always thought I was in control of my addiction. No, my addiction was always in control of me. I mean, kids 11 years old looking at porn, the porn industry is making tons of money, tons of money. How's that going to affect that child later on in life? Well, they're going to start to objectify everything. And they're going to start to think that body parts are much more important than emotional intimacy. It's not their fault. They're getting addicted to visual, not emotions. They don't know what emotions are. They can't have healthy conversations. They can't have personal conversations. They don't know how to deal with discomfort. And this thing here, I could escape by ghosting. I don't have to deal with it. That's not life. We have to be careful about all of these things. And who are we connecting on the internet to? Do we know? How's it affecting dating? We don't know who we're talking to. Is it the person we think we're talking to? So what's happened is people have become so afraid of dating, understandably so, and trusting others, understandably so, that again, it's inhibited their emotional intimacy or their ability to get close to people. And finally, we live in a time period where it's tough to make ends meet, economic problems and stuff. And many families are working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, so they could better support their family. It's understandable. They want to save for their child's college or bigger house or house, whatever it is. But what do I always say in all my podcasts? A child that feels like they don't matter to their parents won't stop loving their parents. They'll stop loving themselves. So the child is sitting back, maybe too young to understand that you're doing this for them. And they're starting to get neglected, not because you want to, not because you're a bad parent, because it's the way we are today. It's the culture we live in. But that child is going to learn the wrong way to get close to people, the wrong way to medicate their feelings, because they're not getting enough attention. Please be aware of this. This is probably the most important thing I'm going to say on this podcast. Be aware to give your child, if you can't give them quantity time, give them quality time. Because again, a child that feels like they don't matter won't stop loving you. They're going to stop loving themselves. And that is a haven for addiction or depression or anxiety, either acting in or acting out. So it's very important to understand this, that you may not be showing up the way you think you're showing up with your children. And believe me, you're not going to see that price paid now, but later on you will, especially when they get old enough and they get into relationships, when they get into emotional intimacy. That's when it's going to happen. The power of childhood messages cannot be underestimated. It is so powerful. We're the ones that instill the initial values and the initial beliefs they have and perceptions they have. And in this culture, that's all getting distorted because of what's going on in the outside world, the wars going on, the hurricanes, unprecedented magnitude of what these hurricanes are, what's going on in politics. All of these things are causing more and more anxiety, and they need us more and more to help normalize our lives, because it's not normal out there right now. There's too much anxiety going on, too much stuff going on. So I think I kind of gave you what the problem is in a pretty clear way. And there's a lot of this. And I would suggest to you, as we go into the solution in a minute, that you listen to this podcast a few times, because I'm going to be giving you a lot of stuff. Take out what you can use. Take out what you can that you could use. You don't have to agree with everything I say. But please, whatever you could take out that can help you, please do. So through self-awareness and positive actions, we need to give our children the self-esteem, the self-worth, the unconditional love that the media is taking away from them. They don't have to fit into the world. They're good just the way they are. They're beautiful. Validation, kindness, telling them their strengths. They need that more than they ever had because of the world that we live in today. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about creating healthy habits and structure. That's the key. And I'll give you ways to do that. Because if you don't, the ramification and the consequences of what's going on today are going to be magnified in the future. You're going to see it come to fruition, and you're going to wish you did it now. So it's very important to stay tuned, to come back. We're going to break for a few minutes, and then we're going to get into the solution and how to work the solution. Stay tuned. Hi, we're back. So now we're going to get into some of the solutions and how to work the solution. So again, as I left off, the most positive ingredient here is to give our children the belief that they're loved unconditionally. They don't have to fit into social media's way of what makes them feel they're a part of. Unconditional love. And if the media can't give it to them, then you got to give it to them. And that's filled with affirmations, positiveness, validating their feelings. You don't have to agree with them, but to say, I hear you. Make them feel like their feelings are important. A child that feels like their feelings are important will feel like they're important. And they won't need to go on the media to fill that void. And you certainly don't want them to go to the wrong people to fill that void. So that's the first piece. Make them feel good about themselves. I suggest to my clients positive affirmations on the mirror, in the bathroom, and looking at yourself while you're saying them twice a day, in the morning and at night. 3, 4 positive affirmations. Take about 30 seconds. Very powerful, because what you say, you start to believe. We need to monitor the internet with our children. Know who they're talking to, what sites they're on. Ask them questions. Make sure you're aware of this stuff. But if you don't do the first part and leave that avenue open that they share with you and talk to you, you're not going to be able to do the second part, monitor the internet, because they're not going to talk to you or they're going to lie to you. We don't want either of those things. So create that safe place for them where they'll talk to you, and then monitor the internet. Okay? Make sure you hear what they're doing. Teach them healthy coping mechanisms. If they get into a problem, ask them, how do they think they can get out of it? Don't just shut the computer off, ghost, or run away, because they're going to need that when they grow older. Developing healthy coping mechanisms is essential. Helicopter parents rush in and fix everything. And then the kid's going to get mad at them because they're not ready to face the world. Now, if they're in impending danger, take care of it. I'm not saying no, but teaching healthy coping mechanisms is essential. And again, creating that healthy environment where you validate them is essential to all of this. Be congruent and honest with them. Look, if you're afraid of what's going on outside and you're telling them not to be afraid, you're not congruent. Say what you mean and mean what you say. A child will understand that. Now, that's age appropriate, of course. Different ages, different things, but be congruent, but leave it with a positive ending. Listen, I have gratitude. We're all together. We love each other. We're together. We'll get through this. Hang around with people with gratitude. Hang around with positive people. Okay? People that'll pick you up and you're not always in the doom and gloom. So make sure that you're being congruent with your children. Believe me, children are market researchers. They know a lot more than what you think they know. They're watching, they're egocentric. They're watching us very closely. And when they become teenagers, of course, they detach, they go to their peers more, but we want to make sure we have that connection. We still want to make sure who their friends are, who they're talking to, what internet they're going to, and all of these things. So it's important to monitor their whereabouts, what's going on, who you're going on social media. Because it's very important to understand and be around them when they need you, but let them get out of their own messes. Teaching them to be aware of their environment is very important too. Tell them if something should happen, what would they do? Who would they go to? What would they do? How would they respond? Talk to them about that. Not to scare them, but to make them aware of what's going on around them. Self-awareness is huge. Without self-awareness, we won't know what actions to take. And creating structure and healthy habits, what I said in the beginning, is essential because that breeds integrity and self-esteem, where we really believe our children can face the world and be okay. Now, here's important. If they're depressed or they're full of anxiety, don't rush in and fix it. Please don't tell them this is what you need to do, or you shouldn't feel this way. Or you want to push them away, then do that. What they need is to be listened to. Active listening. How can I help you? Is there anything I can do? Validation. I see you're hurting. I'm sorry you're hurting. What can I do? Active listening. It's so important. The more you get the more your children feel like you're listening to them, the more they'll listen to you. So it's very important when they're depressed, full of anxiety. You know, we have a society that's over-medicated. Now, don't get me wrong. There's genetics involved here. We know that. And many people need medication. I'm not saying that it's not helpful in certain situations. But sometimes, the solution can't just be more meds. We have to work on it. We have to work and go through uncomfortable conversations to learn how to have healthy conversations. Sometimes the only way we're going to learn is to do it. That's what I said earlier. COVID took that away, and COVID really hurt our children. And you'll see that more in the future because it took social interactions away from them too. So another thing is to limit their time on the internet. Make sure they're not on the internet all the time at dinner. And also, what's really important is to create outside enjoyment other than social media, yoga, exercise. Get out there. Do things away from social media and limit the time on social media, on your phone, on the computer. When you go out to dinner, leave the phones at home. How long is dinner? An hour? Can you do that? Or is it oxygen? And if it's oxygen, that's a red flag. So it's important to do that. Another important piece is no secrets in the family. This has to be a we process, not a me process. Everybody in the family has to be in on the structure and habits that we do together. No secrets, unless, and I say this all the time, if one of the partners are abusive, emotionally, physically, verbally, well, then maybe you have to keep secrets. But if you don't have that in your family, get together and do a to-do list, a plan. What I'm talking about here, put it on paper, put it on a refrigerator. Get structured in healthy habits because the social media can get you structured in unhealthy habits. They shouldn't be filling a void inside. That's what addiction is. Going to drinking to filling a void inside, going to gambling to filling a void inside. Not healthy. So get in the habit of doing those structures and those healthy habits. It's very important. Support groups, amazing. I run support groups, men's support groups for recovering addicts and for men that have had trauma in their life. I can't tell you how important that is to them. These guys won't miss a group if their life depended on it. I got people in Israel calling at 12:30 at night to be on the group at 6:30. I have people all over the country. They won't miss it. Why? They're feeling good about themselves. Self-love, the most important relationship we have is the one we have with ourselves, not with social media. The one we have with ourselves is the key ingredient in all our happiness and relationships. What about support groups? So the digital products can help in certain ways. My groups are on text messages together, group text, and they're always texting each other when they're going through some tough times, uncomfortable feelings, when their addictions are calling or not. Constantly. But what are they doing? They're connecting with human beings. They're not connecting with devices, speaking to human beings. Can't tell you how important support groups are. So cultivate a support group. Very important. So as we leave this, as I said a lot of things on this 20-minute podcast. Maybe hear it again. Write down some things. Take a pen and paper. Take out what you can use. Leave the rest right here. I'm not saying you have to take this whole thing out. Very important. So then my next podcast, I'm going to talk about, it'll be the first Tuesday in November. My God, time is flying, huh? Gee, Thanksgiving's, man. Anyway, I'm going to talk about how to get through a relationship when you break up with somebody, with all the pain, the fears. What could you use that you learned to help you in your next relationship? I'm going to also include why it's so important to get help, professional help. I have some clients that have done this before there's a problem in the relationship. Yeah, before there's a problem. Learning how to cultivate healthy communications, healthy feelings, how to share your feelings, how to allow love in, and how to love others. Don't think everybody knows this, because they don't. That's the next podcast in November. How to get through a tough breakup. What'd you learn? And why it's important to get help before there's a problem. Thank you for joining me. Again, I hope this helps. And I'll see you in November. Take care. You've been listening to The Problem Was Me with me, the host, Tom Gagliano. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the Transformation Talk Radio as I help you break the cycle of negative and addictive thinking affecting the emotional intimacy you have, your parenting skills, the careers you choose, even the roles you were set up to play. As a high-profile leader in addiction and self-help, I've helped develop unique methods and procedures which have helped numerous institutions and individuals. For more information on how I can assist you creating a healthier life, visit theproblemwasme.com.